Welcome to EMS Update 2024. I'm Brian Shaw, the host here at Studio 51. Today, this afternoon, I have with me from Stat MedEvac, the CEO and president of the Center for Emergency Medicine, Jim Hauser. So, Jim, thanks so much for taking some time out of your busy day.
Yeah.
Not only to come to EMS Update, which you have been for quite a few years, and Stat MedEvac has been a big supporter in the Center for Emergency Medicine, but really come over and spend some time and tell us what's new with Stat MedEvac.
Oh, thanks, Brian. I appreciate you having me. I appreciate the introduction. It's always great to get up here and interact with our EMS colleagues, so many folks here that are partners of ours in serving our communities and our patients, and really friends. I mean, it's amazing when you walk through this hall and you look at the folks that are around us, how many of us have been here for a long time. And it's not just EMS, but it's a lot of friends.
And you have to walk through the hall because I get like 5 feet and someone keeps calling my name or coming up. Somebody I haven't seen in a long time.
That is a problem. Yes. It's a good problem, but that is a problem. You have to plan your movement.
Well, I can show you some of the back alleys that I take and back hallways when I really got to get somewhere. But
when you're in antisocial mode.
Well, I'm not antisocial. Well, I'm on a mission though, but that's what, and that's the great thing. We have 1,000 EMS providers and clinicians they're here.
Yeah, it's amazing. Tom mentioned that at the board meeting that we're thinking we're around 1,000.
Yeah.
We indicated that we're without the final Joe Ponko numbers.
Yeah.
That was exciting. I mean, I think his words, largest in the tri-state area.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe it.
Hey, and speaking of exciting, I heard some exciting things going on with Stat MedEvac right now and some movement going on.
Well, we have a lot of cool things going on. I think the project that you're probably thinking of, we have a new communication center that's coming online next week.
Mm-hmm.
So just a few short days away from moving from the 13th floor of UPMC Presbyterian, where we've been for years.
Mm-hmm.
Some on this podcast may remember when we were down in the ED and the lobby, not the lobby, but right outside of the emergency department entrance. And prior to that on Scaife Hall. So we have always been in UPMC Presbyterian, but over time we've recognized as our operations have grown, and more importantly, the technology demands so that we can meet the needs of our EMS community have increased. We need better technology, we need better infrastructure. And so with that, we're moving to a whole new facility where we'll be transitioning from an analog system to a completely digital system. It's going to give us significant improvements to our radio infrastructure. And most importantly, it's going to give us a space where we can do the work that we need to do to serve our EMS partners.
Technology. Take us through some of the technology pieces that a Stat MedEvac communication specialist or dispatcher terminology.
Well,
what do they use? What do they have at their fingertips?
Everything. I mean, you think about technology today from a computer perspective. I mean, for our teams, they're using internet resources. They're using computer-aided dispatching software. We use a program called Flight Vector, which is our CAD for those in EMS using dispatch software. That's our computer-aided dispatch program. They're using mapping software. They're using different tools that we use to track the aircraft, look at weather, inclement weather. We're looking at road conditions. I mean, you name the area that would impact our ability to serve a patient, it's being tracked, monitored, surveilled, interacted with in that room. So there's a lot of computer technology, certainly radio technology that I mentioned, a big upgrade for us. And admittedly, we were probably lagging behind is moving from an analog system to a digital system, which gives us voice over IP, radio over IP technology so that it gets us to a modern point today, but also puts us in a position for the future. So we're really not only looking at how we serve our patients in the community in 2024, but how do we interface with future technologies in 25, 26, and so on. The other thing that we're using in addition to the radio infrastructure is we have digital access. It's amazing now. I think of my kids and texting and not wanting to make phone calls. We're trying to do the same thing with 911 centers and referring health systems where we now have mobile application access where you can use the internet to request a helicopter and interact with our communication specialists so that mitigating the number of phone calls. You're in a busy 911 center, the less phone calls you have to make, the better. You've got a lot going on. It's an evolution of our one call program that we've been doing for 20 plus years, trying to take as much of the workload off of our EMS customers and our EMS partners and our 911 centers as possible.
Yeah. So you talk about that process, someone requesting Stat MedEvac. Let's kind of go through that process when a ground-based ambulance service calls for a helicopter and they go through their 911 center. What happens on the stat side when they pick up that phone or they're going to receive that text from the 911 center?
So much like a 911 center, there's a lot of activities that are occurring oftentimes simultaneously or in parallel. So we're getting a request for service. So that dispatcher is taking that information. They're looking at what type of patient is it? Where is the patient? They're trying to confirm location. At the same time, they're trying to make a decision on which asset is the most appropriate, which aircraft is the closest, how can we get to the patient as efficiently as possible? So they're making all of those decisions. And at the same time, in that room, we have our operational control center. So we operate 18 helicopters, which means we have to, as an air carrier, Part 135 air carrier, we have to maintain complete operational control of that fleet. So we have a whole nother team that's looking at weather, issuing flight releases, making sure that we are being compliant with the FAA regulations. So that team in tandem is assuring that we are efficiently getting the right resource to the patient.
So you talk about the operational control center. Are those just dispatchers or what's the training behind that?
Within our communication center, we have the Stat MedEvac dispatch team, which is that intake group that we just talked about. So if you're requesting a helicopter and you hear Stat MedEvac Jim, which, by the way, I don't know if many people know this, I actually started in the communication center. So if any of my team if I get any of this wrong, they can remind me that I'm thinking of things from 25 years ago. But when
I think there used to be alphanumeric pagers then, like you get a 1 for a flight, 2 for a standby, 3 for a cancellation.
That's probably close to accurate.
Yeah.
So you get in contact with those dispatchers. In tandem, I mentioned the operational control. In addition to those two groups, we have UPMC Medic Command. So that group is working with all of our EMS partners, facilitating command consults, notifications to emergency departments, all the different things that you would expect when you're interacting with Pittsburgh Medic Command and UPMC Medic Command. Mm-hmm. That's occurring within that group. Then we have another group of individuals. It's probably not as well known. We refer to them as the Stat MD team, where they're supporting airlines. So we're doing ground-based medical support for several major air carriers. So you're flying on a Southwest flight and you need oxygen on the flight. Our team are the ones that are facilitating the access to have oxygen on the plane. Mm-hmm. That's the same team that's also coordinating the guidance for the flight crew if there's a medical emergency on the airplane. So you hear somebody ask, is anybody on the plane a paramedic? Everybody's worst fear. I know it's mine. If I hear...
Do you raise your hand? Because I don't.
I've not had the opportunity yet. And hopefully it stays that way. But our team of physicians who are highly experienced at doing this are the ones that provide the guidance to whether it's you or I as an EMS provider on the plane, a physician, or in some cases, there may be nobody on the plane that has any type of healthcare knowledge. So our team is working in coordination with that flight crew, the piloting command to provide that guidance and even making the decision whether or not that plane should continue on to its final destination or divert.
That's like super interesting. I think I have my daughter flying today as we're talking. She's on her way to Seattle from Pittsburgh. So if there's a medical emergency on that flight, they'd be passing that flight back to Pittsburgh.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
How yin's all doing up there, huh?
Exactly. So we have all those areas. And I mean, back to your question, how do all these things work? Well, they work as a team, right? So you have oftentimes multiple things all the time. In fact, I'd share with you, we have nearly 150,000 interactions in that room a year. And that's just direct interactions for requests, operational control, Stat MD. That's not including them calling me to ask a question or calling one of our physicians for a non-command question or any administrative phone call. So there is a tremendous amount of activity that occurs in that room. So there's a huge element of teamwork that has to occur. And with that, you can imagine we're dispatching aircraft. Medic Command is coordinating, hey, we have this particular flight crew on the line that has a need for a consult. Oh, by the way, we have this EMS agency that has a need for a consult, and they're all doing those things in tandem.
A lot of things going on all at one time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But a lot of exciting things from your standpoint as being the CEO of the organization. ushering in this new form of communications, a whole new communication center from what you started out with, years ago. So
Yeah,
it's going to be a proud moment for you.
It's a proud moment for all of us. I mean, we have a great team. John Lovett, John Kuchma, his entire team up there, they're doing great work. And it really is the hub of everything we do.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about our operations, we cannot do the work. We can't serve all of the folks in this room without that group. And so this investment's not only important to our organization, but it's important to all of our EMS group.
Yes. And we got a few minutes here, but we can talk about dispatch operations all the time. But once those tones go off for the flight crew and they're getting that aircraft to get there, aircraft wear out. Do you ever replace them, or do we have them for a lifetime?
Brian, it's like we planned these questions. So we have in fact moved forward, and we're very excited about our fleet and the things that we're doing with our aircraft. Those that interact with us and follow us know that we have a very forward-thinking approach to our aircraft fleet. We do that to serve the needs of our patients and, of course, our EMS partners. We operate Airbus EC-135 and EC-145 aircraft. We're in the process of transitioning all of our 135 aircraft to a new variant. It's the H-135 T3. And with that comes a whole suite of technological advances that we don't have in the prior aircraft. Now, all of our aircraft are capable. We operate single pilot IFR. We invest in that technology. We invest in the competence and the excellence of our aviation staff so that they can use that equipment to the best that we can to serve our patients. We're taking that to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
So with this new aircraft, you have 4-axis autopilot, synthetic vision. We call it a glass cockpit. You look inside. The entire thing is just basically one big digital display. So we have 6 of those online. And what I think you're alluding to with the last question is we're now taking delivery of the next version of this, where we're taking the same approach with all of the aviation investment. We have all that technology from an aviation perspective, and we're rethinking how we deliver care in the back of the aircraft. So the entire medical interior, we refer to the back side of the aircraft as the medicine side, right? We're taking care of patients in the back. So all of the equipment, infrastructure, components, if you will, have been rethought so that we can have a more ergonomic approach to how we deliver patient care. There's going to be different ways we can configure it, different places to place equipment. Imagine an EMS service looking at modernizing the back of their ambulance, right? You sit down and you look at, where am I going to place the monitor? Where am I going to place the blood? We looked at all of those things. And so that's all changing with this new aircraft.
Yeah, just like the ambulances we see on display here, where the bench seats that you and I used to sit on when we first got involved.
Totally different.
Now we're in captain's chairs on the side, they slide, everything's in arm grease, all for safety and ergonomics of our patients and especially our crew members.
And you mentioned during the board meeting, you were looking at different ways to create a safer scene environment, right? So lighting's key. We've done a lot of work. I think back to my EMS days, and a shout out to Baldwin EMS when we were very focused on making sure the entire scene was lit appropriately. We've done the same thing with the aircraft. So if you see our new aircraft, the H model, the first variant, we added additional exterior lighting. We have completely revamped that again. We have all LED lighting. We have scene light lighting essentially on these aircraft so that we can assure that, one, the aircraft's visible to anybody that's operating around it. More importantly, our flight crews can see the terrain that they're walking through. They're landing in fields, they're landing on the side of highways, slippery surfaces. Now they'll have the ability to have that all illuminated. So it may seem simple. You say, oh, Jim, it's lights. Well, for us, there's a whole FAA certification that goes into this. There's extensive engineering. So to put a light on one side of a helicopter is not an insignificant task. The other thing that we did, just thinking about efficiencies for how we serve our patients, time is important. We're sensitive to our response times and the accuracy there. That ties to the comm center, and then it even ties to this new aircraft. We have historically used an external heating system in the winter months to keep the aircraft cabin warm. No different than a car. As you remember this, you have to wait for the windscreen to defrost. And so you're sitting there running, waiting for the windscreen to defrost. Part of this completion, we've actually worked with Airbus in another group called Tanis to have heating internally fixed into the aircraft. So not only will it heat itself, But we've also eliminated the need to have, and you remember this too, we have a bunch of pigtails, no different than the ambulance with a shoreline. Our aircraft had more than one because the heating systems were on a different shoreline.
In a previous life, when I worked in Air Medical Service, Stat MedEvac, used to be amazing. We had a $5 million aircraft. We were heating it with a $95 ceramic heater with an extension cord through the window.
Yes. I will tell you, we evolved a little bit from that because as our director of maintenance would say, we didn't want that $65 heater burning down a multi-million-dollar aircraft. So we moved to a new system, but by moving to that new system, it actually became more complicated.
Yeah.
We had to have special disconnects. We wanted to make sure that it wouldn't have a fire hazard. So we've eliminated all of that. So now one plug for the entire aircraft, no different than the ambulances over here. So again, seemingly simple, but in the world of aviation, multiple engineering discussions, FAA certification, it's a tremendous amount of work to do this, but we felt it was important because we want our crews to be able to quickly deploy.
Great. So once again, a lot of exciting things going on with Stat MedEvac, Comm Center, new aircraft, new technology. And thanks, Jim, for taking time out of your busy day to come here and spread the word about that.
I really appreciate this. I appreciate what you all are doing here, and I certainly appreciate all of our partners in EMS for everything that they do. So thank you, Brian.
Yep, thank you.
All right.
On behalf of EMS Update in Studio 51, thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to the next session.